What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the Burgundy Brigade podcast. I am your host, Kevin Goff. You can find me on Twitter at BRGBrigadeKevin. Joined again by my good friend and co-host at Avalangelist on the Twitter, Aaron Music. Aaron, my friend, how are you?
You know, it's the weekend. I don't have to be to work till Monday, and that's even optional right now in my mind. I'm good.
Nice. Very nice. Excellent. Well, we got a lot of stuff to get through today, so we're just going to kind of...
I'm sorry. Is there something happening where the Avs are concerned?
There might be a little bit of things going on here. There's this little event coming up in about a week that most of the teams have received an invitation to. I believe it's in Dallas.
Are we sure Edmonton has received an invitation, or are they just going to send McDavid?
They crash the party every year, whether we want them or not. They're like the uncle that nobody likes.
Well, they didn't win the lottery, so they might take their ball and go home.
That's possible. That you never know. You never know. The draft is, of course, full of surprises, and that would be. I think most people would be like, "Yeah, we could live this year without Edmonton."
Yeah.
So, of course, we're still talking draft here, ladies and gentlemen. Last couple weeks, we have gone through a couple of the two most recent years of Avalanche history in the draft, the 2015 and 2016 drafts, and looked at those prospects, where they were taken, what thoughts were around them at the time, where they've gone since, have they signed their contracts, what does their immediate and maybe long-term future look like for the team. We're going to now do that with last year's draft from 2017. Which
shaping up to be a nice draft.
Which, yeah, I was just gonna say, yeah. For my money, this of the three, this one at the moment might look like the best of the three. And the last 2 years, the 16 and the 15 draft weren't bad at all. It's not like you were looking at something going, "Wow, what on earth were they thinking?" But this just happens to be the 17 draft just appears to be that good.
Well, in the 17 draft, in the other, especially where the one with Mikko Rantanen and AJ Greer, they had an extra second round pick. That kind of weighted things. They did not have an extra pick. In fact, they just had their picks. And for variety, for value, I feel like they really snagged players that fit, or at least players in positions that they need or will need going forward, with the exception of maybe the fourth overall pick, because that was kind of best player available.
Yeah. Of course, everybody remembers with last year's draft. Of course, the Avs had just come off this woeful season, and then not only did they have that 48-point monstrosity in the standings, then the Avalanche lost the draft lottery completely, fell from the first overall pick to the fourth overall pick. And just a quick moment before we get too far into this, we are actually going to kind of break this episode into two parts. We're going to finish our draft review here, and then we're going to have a quick discussion about...
You don't tell them it's going to be broken into two parts. You leave an awful cliffhanger that takes 3 months to resolve. Haven't you seen Best of Both Worlds? Come on.
Well, it's next week, man. I didn't have time for a 3-month cliffhanger.
Well, I don't know. Now we don't know if there's the draft coverage is going to... You spoiled it.
I'm sorry. I ruined things. This is what I do.
Hey, you fun sucker. It's the third time this week I've used that phrase. I don't think it's not going to be the last.
I imagine not. The
weekend
is very
It's a fun thing to say. And if you get it slightly wrong, it becomes even more fun to say.
Indeed. That's a good thing we have an adult rating on this one, I think. Do we? Actually, I don't know if I did that. I might need to change that. Anyways, and in the second part of our conversation, we'll discuss some things leading up to this year's draft, which is happening next week down in Dallas, and take a look at what the Avalanche might be looking for, not just in the first round, because there's a lot to discuss that could potentially happen for the Avalanche in the first round. But also have a look at what the Avalanche might be looking at for the draft as a whole. We're not going to go mock out the whole 7 rounds for the Avs, but there is still plenty to discuss. So let's go ahead. Go ahead.
And you know that the discussion for the draft in a week is about to get a lot more interesting. We'll resolve that cliffhanger coming up.
Da-da-da. You'll have to listen to part 2. Right on. So let's jump into 2017's draft class here. So the Avs, after their heartbreak of a season and the heartbreak of a lottery draft, lottery selection, the Avalanche end up with number 4 overall. And the Avalanche make the selection of Cale Makar, who played his draft year in the Alberta Junior Hockey League for the Brooks Bandits and had an outstanding year. It was an amazing player. He had 75 points in 54 games, 24 goals, had one of the his most negative draft review was something like, it's hard to tell how he is defensively because he always has the puck.
I remember, first of all, we call him Brooks because the Denver Post called him Brooks.
Oh, God. I forgot about that. Let's see. Makar, so again, came in very strong into his draft year. Was a commit to the NCAA, which was, of course, nothing unusual, but it was kind of odd that he had chosen to play for UMass Amherst. Not exactly a program that's known for churning out NHL talent. In fact, it's quite the opposite. It's a program that until Makar got there, I think something out of, and I'm pulling up the numbers right this second, but out of their past 5 seasons, not including this year, they had maybe 4 seasons where they had one fewer than 10 games. And it's just not exactly the strongest program out there. Last season, the 16-17 season, they were 5-29-2. 15-16, they were 8-24-4. 14 and 15 was their big year where they were 11-23-2. And then 13-14, they were 4-3-3. 9-6-2 the year before. It just keeps going. So it's not. And then now Makar's gotten there, they made a nice jump. They were 17-20-2 this year, nearly 500. So that is a big positive step for them. Makar, I believe, is already slated to be their captain next season.
That is correct.
So his season with Amherst this year it got off to a bit of a slow start, but he did pick it up. He ended the season, played 34 games, had 5 goals, 16 assists, 21 points. Not half bad. And, of course, the big place where he got the most notice was at the World Junior Championships this past season, where he was woefully underused by the coaching staff, was essentially relegated to a power play specialist, and only got on the ice when Canada was on a power play, and then seemed to score whenever Canada was on the power play. Logging something, he got fewer than 10 minutes of ice a game, but still managed to be voted to the World Junior Championship tournament All-Star team, I believe.
In overtime, he actually got more. He got more ice time as it went along.
In which game? Because I don't know that they went to overtime.
He ended up at the end. He was skating more with Connor Timmins, and who's also an Avalanche draft pick.
Yep.
So at least he got a little bit more, and he was real. It's more about what you do with your minutes than how many minutes you get, I guess.
I'll agree with that. And
can't say anything about the minutes Makar got and how he used them.
Absolutely. He ended up with 8 points in 7 games. I believe it was 3 and 5, 3 goals, 5 assists. He was dynamic when he was out there. Ray Ferraro would not shut up about him. And I loved that. He would just gush about both Makar and Timmins, and who we'll talk about in a minute. But it was really, really nice to hear all these wonderful, wonderful things being said about Avalanche draft picks. And Makar, man, that kid has confidence with the puck. Like, we're talking Sam Girard confidence.
There's a highlight. We're going to have to post it with the blog where he skates from end to end back at UMass.
Yes, I know which one you're talking about.
Skates end to end, and I believe it was game tying goal?
I think it might have been, yeah.
And you set that on a loop and show that at work, and people are going to think you're watching something else.
So just be careful with the noises, all right? Make sure everyone can see your hands. It was a thing of beauty. You watch that and you go, oh, I cannot wait for him to do that with the Avalanche a lot.
And you know the saddest thing with Cale Makar?
What's that?
He's definitely going back to college.
Yes.
And because he's in college, we won't see him in training camp.
This is very true, which is a big sad.
That's a real bummer. I wish the NCAA would kind of loosen those regulations.
It would be nice. It would be nice. I mean, at the same time, I kind of understand because that's also sort of around the same time that their teams are starting their camps.
Yeah, but I think the real thing is NCAA doesn't want to open avenues to which their players can get paid.
Yeah, I can see that.
And they think that's a slippery slope, despite the fact they make over $4 billion a year, but they can't find a way to pay their student athletes.
Right. I mean, that's a whole different discussion to go to sure. But
it's just they don't want to go down that because it means it's the proverbial if you give a moose a muffin.
Yeah. Very true. Very true. What are your thoughts on Makar going back to college for another season? There's a lot of people who saw Makar choose to go back to UMass and did what Avalanche Twitter does and freaked out a bit.
I was a little bit sad, mostly because I really wanted to see him. Then again, there's a lot of competition for the Avalanche blue line currently, and it actually forestalls the debate, or at least it should, of, Cale Makar and Tyson Barrie, you can't have them both on the roster. What do you do?
Right.
So it stops that debate before it starts, at least for a year.
Good.
Or I would expect Makar's going to sign his contract right around March.
Yep.
And he's either going to go to Loveland or to Denver.
Which would be excellent. Actually, I think that I'm with you completely
or
on
if he
that.
plans on staying, spending time between the two places, we have a house in Broomfield that he's welcome to use.
I know he's a listener of the podcast, so we'll make sure that we get that.
Yeah, put out the feelers,
Absolutely.
Room for rent.
Yeah, absolutely.
As long as you're a hockey player that's going to wear something Avalanche logoed, it's either an Eagle or an Avalanche. Whichever you are, you're welcome.
Then we're happy. Absolutely. Yeah, no, I'm totally with you on that. I think one of the things, I mean, Makar himself felt like he said he felt like it would be best for his development to get another year in the college game instead of jumping to the NHL, which he feels he might not quite be ready for. And I got to respect that.
I think also respect is he specifically wants to work on his defensive side.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
That's a little bit extra of okay, I can score here, but can I defend here?
Absolutely. And
so another year of getting stronger, smarter, faster.
Absolutely, and it took him a little while to get his stride, and it would be really nice for him to come into a season already in a place where he's already up to the level he needs and go from just comfortable to being dominant. And I think he can easily make that jump with Amherst this year and be a dominant player for that team. I mean, when Tyson Jost went to North Dakota, he came in and played really, really well with North Dakota right away. He immediately was a little more than a point per game in his freshman year. So he kind of already took the jump that he needed to get to. Makar hasn't done that quite yet, and and there's nothing wrong with that. I don't necessarily. Yes, we all want to see him, but I think it could end up being a much better thing for his development in the long run to get that extra year, the little extra experience, like you said, get a chance to round out his game a bit more, focus on the defense, but at the same time also come in and keep doing the things he knows he does really well and dominate in a league that he should probably dominate this year.
And not only dominate, but get the puck away, move it up, and score.
Yep.
I'll be real interested to watch his development as it goes along. And you know what? Assuming the Avs are where we want them to be, he could be a nice little shot in the arm that they get after the trade deadline. Especially
if Tyson Barrie is going through one of his injured phases, as he tends to go through in most seasons.
Yeah, it would just kind of like...
That would fire that Tyson Barrie trade discussion up right up again, wouldn't it?
Kind of like Matt Martin, kind of like a different way Eli Tovalin. Just players who come in late in the season and they can make an impact, or they don't.
Very good.
So Tovalin didn't make an impact, but I feel like that was lack of usage.
Yeah. Nice.
In any case, I expect Makar to sign his contract, and he's either spend some time in the AHL, and then for what I hope is a 2-3 round playoff run, the Avs have him at least on a reserve roster.
Right.
So he's up practicing with the team. He gets used to everything.
Yeah. I like that idea as well. I think a lot of it will depend on where the Avalanche are. I agree. I think he comes in and signs his contract in March, jumps right into the pro game. Where the Avs are will likely determine a lot as to whether he comes up to the big team or goes down to Loveland, where it also would not be a bad thing for him to get his feet a little bit wet and then again adjust to the pro game, similarly to college, and then be ready to dive in full time for the next season. So, I mean, the pick itself was heralded very highly. There was a lot that said the Avs may have gotten the steal of the draft at 4, which is great. Well, one of the guys with the highest upsides in that draft, which wasn't a fantastic draft by any stretch of the imagination, just from an overall talent perspective. Still, I mean, it was pretty good, but it wasn't nearly as good as what I think we're going to be seeing in this year's draft, and especially even next year's draft too. So yeah, good pick there. And then the Avs moved into the second round, where they were finally back at the top of the list, and ran to the stage and selected Connor Timmins, another defenseman. Timmins played
the first pick in the second round. The first time that is the 32nd overall.
Yep, that's right. The Avs ran up, and Timmins played his junior hockey that year in the OHL with the Sault Ste. Marie Hounds, Greyhounds or Hounds, I forget. They just call it. I always see Hounds on Twitter. Greyhounds, I think. They made it all the way to the OHL finals this year. Timmins was a huge part about that. He was also part of Team Canada at the World Junior Championships. Another one who everybody was gushing about constantly. He played...
They almost gushed out him more than they did in the car.
I would say so, because one of the things... His minutes grew steadily throughout that tournament. He didn't start off as one of the top guys, but he ended the tournament as one of the top guys. Made the play that led to the game-winning goal in the gold medal game for Canada. Kept a puck in, made a great shot pass. That he didn't just rip it on net. He took a second and looked at what was in front of him, faked the goalie out with a shot pass that was just tipped right in. It was an outstanding tournament for Connor Timmins. He certainly turned a lot of heads.
The only concern we have with him now is he looked like to receive a concussion.
Yep.
Right at the end of his season, and we've seen that happen before. So at least it looks like he's not feeling the ill effects.
Yeah.
But that's.
Yeah. And to be fair, it wasn't the same type of concussion that Joey Hishin ended up with. Everyone remembers that the hit that took out Joey Hishin was dirty, and it messed him up for a long time.
It ended his career for all intents.
Essentially, yeah. It absolutely did. He was never the same player after that. And this does not seem to be the same level of severity. which is great. Still, it's not something you want to mess around with. The brain is not something you want to screw around with. And
Unless you're Tom Wilson and you don't use it, you probably shouldn't. By the way, I misspoke. The Avs did lose their third-round draft pick this year. They sent it to the Devils so that they could,
But they did have an extra fourth-round pick, I believe, from the Nick Holden trade.
Yes, they lost the third round getting Eric Jelena, but they gained a fourth round by trading Nick Holden, which is really the best thing you could do for anyone.
Indeed. Now he wasn't on our blue line anymore. Timmins had another great year with Sault Ste. Marie. I mean, it's hard to say too much more about him. There wasn't much bad to say. He has a great two-way game.
He signed his contract. He's going to be in the pros next year, and he's actually, assuming he's healthy, he's actually one of my dark horse picks to be on the opening night roster. Remember in camp, he actually stuck around far longer than people thought he would.
He was around until about the last cuts. He just kept sticking and sticking and sticking. And there was a while there where everyone was kind of starting to ask the question, wow, are they
Is this Ryan O'Reilly?
Are they going to sign this kid? And I listened to a couple other podcasts, specifically the BSN podcast. They were talking that there was an internal split there. There were people that wanted him to stay on the big team, but they eventually, of course, decided to send him back down. Which, again, it's never bad to get another guy. So you never really expect your second-round picks to come out and make the team right out of camp. That just doesn't happen very often. And it's never a bad idea to let those guys continue to grow for a year. And he did do that. I think the World Juniors was a great opportunity for him, again, to gain some great big-time experience. And, man, did he rise to the occasion.
I have to stop you here just a bit. I got something rolling across my Twitter feed. The Arizona Coyotes have traded for Alexander Galchenyuk.
Really?
Mm-hmm. So that Arizona, we will get into this later on when we make season predictions. I predict Arizona will win the Pacific Division.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It's
wow.
bold, but if you paid attention... So Max Domi for Alex Galchenyuk.
Straight up?
Straight up.
Whoa.
At least that's what I'm reading.
Wow. Max Domi. They sent out Domi.
Yeah. That's actually, I like that trade a lot. Galchenyuk needs a new place to start, and he's put him with Clayton Keller. He's going to be really good.
That's a ballsy trade. I have to digest that for a bit.
Yeah, I just saw that roll across my feed. But back to Connor Timmins.
Yeah. Anywho,
I believe he's, if he plays the way that he did this year, that he did last year, I believe he earns himself a roster spot.
I agree.
Jared Bednar is all about a meritocracy, and if you can skate, you can stick. And Timmins always skated. He always had his feet moving, which was really great to see. Made him stand out.
And he sees the game really well. He processes the game in front of him very, very well. Makes very good decisions with the puck. And it's not even that he just makes safe decisions with the puck. He'd make safe decisions when that's the right decision, but he can also make very aggressive offensive decisions that can move your team forward too. He's a guy that you've just got to be high on as part of the Avs and as an Avalanche fan.
And you're not going to keep him down for long.
No, he will be, if he doesn't start the season with the Avs, he will get there before too long, unless something bad is happening, and that of course is not something we want to happen. So, yeah, again, and that was the first time in a long time that the Avalanche had gone defense with their first two selections in the draft.
And really, not just defense, they're very similar to players, even though Timmins is taller, bigger, but they're both right-handed defenseman, which if you look at the right-handed side of the Avalanche defense, that's pretty locked up.
It is.
One's either going to be asked to slide over, or you're looking at a trade of some other Avalanche defenseman.
Indeed. I do believe that Timmins does have some experience playing on the left side as well. He can play both.
Well, obviously, if he and Makar played together.
Yep. That is very true. Although I think a lot of that happened on the power play. Because again, Makar's ice time was almost exclusively
powered. On the left side, it doesn't matter. It still shows at least a little bit of a level of comfort.
Yes.
Say that 5 times fast. I dare you.
A little bit, at least a level of comfort.
Yeah, see, told you.
That's just a lot of words. I need to breathe.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So then, as you said, the Avalanche went without a third-round draft pick that year. Had 2 fourth-round selections, and with the first fourth-round selection, they chose Nick Henry, right wing out of the WHL with the Regina Pats, who kind of fell a little bit. And part of that, I think, was almost assuredly because he was dealing with an injury that he kind of played through and went undiagnosed for a while, and he had to have shoulder surgery in the off season. Could possibly have gone higher because he had a good.
If you watch his shot,
he's got a shot.
He's got that very kind of cagey Milan Haydu gets it off in tight space kind of shot.
Mm-hmm. And he goes to. He's very smart in that he goes to really good scoring areas, finds the open spots, slides into open spots. And the puck loves him, man. The puck finds him.
If you know the game will know you.
Absolutely. Ooh, that's deep. I like that. In his draft year, Henry had 81 points with Regina. And it was a very good Regina team. 35 goals, 46 assists in his draft year. As we said, he had that injury that actually cost him a big chunk of the first portion of this year's season. He only got 53 games instead of the 72 he got a year before. So the numbers are a little bit less. He had 14 goals, 15 assists this past season. Then had kind of another, I think he had another injury situation that he was going through a little bit later. Didn't have a lot of playoff games, but once he got into the Memorial Cup, oh boy. No, actually, I'm sorry. There wasn't another injury thing. Regina was the host of was the Memorial Cup host, so they were automatically playing in the Memorial Cup, and Regina was eliminated from the WHL playoffs in the first round. Sorry about that. So he had 4 points in 7 games, but in the Memorial Cup he had I think he led everybody in goals.
5 goals in 5 games,
including a hat trick in one of the games. He showed very well in the Memorial Cup.
And the shot that he has, this is where I like this draft pick. This is where I like the draft overall, because the Avs went 2 defensemen, very similar. And so you had this idea of, are they just going to spend the entire draft doing this like they've done? No, they grab a nice sized winger, 6 foot 190. That's a pretty good size for. He's a right winger, which they are so shallow on that right wing, but
very, very shallow. Yes,
he can shoot, he can skate, he's smart. They've made a very big move towards smarter players, players that figure out the game quicker. So you put that all together. He 4 points. He still scored. In 7 games in the playoffs, he scored 3 goals. Yep. That's before the Memorial Cup. That means 8 goals in 12 games.
Yep.
Tells me he knows where to go to find the puck to score.
He does.
And score consistently.
I
like this kid. And did they sign him yet?
He has not been signed yet, no.
They might just send him. The idea might be go back, get a full year of development.
Right.
And then sign once he hits 20.
So I think he's got this one last year in the dub to play. and then I would likely bet that the Avalanche will get him signed before too long. But like you said, get him back in for that full year. It'll be nice to get him another full season. Let him really go back and get that full year of just scoring at will. Because the Regina team isn't as good as it was the year he knocked the 81 points, but he's still a big part of that team, and he's got the capability to move it forward. And I think they would love to see more of that. And I'm with you. I love the shift to for so long. And we've talked about this. A lot of people have talked about this for a long time, that the Avs had this tendency to just fall into like they'd pick one type of player they want and go with it. And it was always they got to be big, or they got to be,
or you're above 220 pounds. I don't care that the other guys are skating circles around you or are more skilled. We want you.
Yeah, exactly. So now if you're starting to, like you said, as you're focusing on their ability to process and think the game, you can find players of all different sizes, shapes, and roles that they play on their team, but they think the game, as long as they think the game's right and can process it quickly, then they're going to be a useful asset to the team. And it's good that Alan Heppel has been a great addition.
His process, and the Avs have also invested a lot more scouting in the European regions.
Yes, they have.
Alexei Guzarov does most of their Russian scouting, or at least he heads that up, which is great.
Yeah. So yeah, this is kind of a recurring theme for the Avs in this draft. Not only are they finding those guys who are, like we've been saying, are thinking the game really well, but they're finding guys who know how to score in a lot of different ways.
Know where to be for the right time.
Because Cale Makar obviously has the capability to be like a human highlight reel.
People compared him to Erik Karlsson.
Right. Connor Timmins is got that solid two-way game, is a guy that's probably going to have a lot of assists coming up, and will be able to contribute with goals, but he's just smart and knows who to get the puck to so the puck can get in the net. Henry has a knack for scoring goals. And as we'll keep going down the list here, these are all guys, the skaters, not the goalies that they get, all have capabilities of putting up points.
I have nothing more to add. I love the pick.
Great pick. The second fourth-round pick that the Avalanche have, and that they then fall into their let's get obscure European goalie.
Yeah. It's their annual European goaltender tradition.
I wonder who they're going for this year, man alive. They select Peter Kvacha, who is in the Czech Junior League.
You pronounced it right. That's great. Most people don't do the CH in there. I'm so proud of you.
Oh, thank you.
What? Thank you. All right.
God.
Anyways.
So Kvacha was, again, another... He was selected, I believe he was 19 when he was selected, so he'd been through the draft once and was not selected, and the Avalanche found him in the fourth round, took him this time around. Had some very strong seasons with his junior team. 2 years in a row, I believe, where his goals against was under 2. This 16-17 year with his Czech 2 junior team here was 8. He had 1.41 goals against average, 0.94 save percentage. Believe he led it was a big part of their team's championship that year. Playoffs was even better, 1.31 goals against and 0.934 save percentage. Very impressive. And then again, this past season with the junior team was 1.75 goals against, 0.923 save percentage. These are excellent numbers. Excellent numbers. Of course, the downside that you look at is that he hasn't really played in the upper divisions. He's got, except for the 2 games that he had with Sparta Praha this year.
This is Sparta.
Yeah, where he was not very Spartan-like. And was in 2 games, had a goals against of 5.4 and a save percentage of .833. So, again,
Minnesota's already calling his number.
So, So he's excelling at his age group, and obviously he's still young. He's only 20 now.
Yeah,
yes, 20. So there's room.
He's a tad bit small for a goaltender.
He's 6'1", so it's not terrible size, but he's not Adam Werner at 6'5". Absolutely.
Well, and he 174. Give that guy a sandwich.
Yeah, but goalies tend to be a little slighter of build.
Yeah.
So he's a project pick. He's another one where you sit there and go, well, I mean, if he works out,
through this dartboard, let's see where it landed.
Exactly. It feels that way a lot with these goalies. It's just
but there's nothing on the next pick, 5th round pick, Igor Shivrev.
Something like that. Shvirev. I've heard a lot of pronunciations.
I will pronounce it the way that I have, just because that makes kind of sense.
Sounds good.
Until I've heard, Mosier say it when he's excited.
Yeah. Oh, man. I can't wait to hear Mosier go nuts with his name. So, yeah, I guess we kind of... we
might have to dump Mosier off the air for some of those.
Oh, yeah. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. So I guess kind of closing off Kovacic, it's kind of I guess we'll kind of see things. Similar to Werner, we don't really know a lot about him because he plays in the lower-level junior league in Europe, and it's just kind of hard to find those guys. And hopefully he gets some experience with his big team this coming season, but he's going to have to show a lot of development. He's several years out.
Yeah, but at the same point, this is a guy, he's 19, so he's a little older for the draft selections.
Well, he's 20 now.
Well, yes. Yeah, or he will be in just about a month.
Well, he'll be 21 in September. Date of birth, September 12th, 1997.
Okay, I got the wrong prospect up then. And that's the same thing. Signed with the Avs. Anyways, but the whole question with him, there's talent. It was opportunity was one question. And then the other question revolving around him was, could you get him to come over? Mm-hmm. And the Avs did. And it looks like he's going to start in Loveland.
Oh, you're on Shvirev now?
Yeah.
Sorry, I was just finishing off Kovacic there.
Oh, that's why we were crossed wires.
Yep, crossed wires. Moving on to Shvirev, the 5th round pick, 125th overall. Now we're on the same page.
This is what happens when we get into different states.
It is. My bad, man. My bad.
Just don't become a beaver, okay?
I have no allegiance to any colleges out here.
Good. Buffs forever. And we've just lost half our audience.
Sorry, guys. So now we're to Shvirev. Yes, the big question, just like you said, was could you get him to come over from Russia? Because there didn't seem to be that seemed to be why he fell as far down in the draft as he did, because teams just didn't feel like he was worth the gamble of a draft pick, because they didn't figure they'd get him to come over anyways. And the Avalanche managed to do that. And part of that is great because of them, and I think it didn't hurt that the KHL team that he played for essentially glued him to the bench. We've talked about it before, that even though he has 32 games to his credit, a lot of those games that he played, he actually has 0 ice time, or as little as 7 seconds or even less of ice time.
It's just like the equivalent of, he steps out on the ice and they're like, who let you out of your cage?
Yeah. You get on the ice. Just kidding. You so silly. Now, it should be, of course.
If they got him to come over, he's going to be in Loveland. He's going to have a lot of opportunity, because there isn't a whole lot of depth currently in Loveland.
Very true.
As it sits right now, they'll probably sign some sort of depth, but the idea there is to give him time. And you never know, especially with the Russian players, you get them over, and they go to another level, and then they win the Stanley Cup and party for 7 straight days.
Oh man, that has been fun to watch. And I think one of the big things that definitely helps with this, with him, is now the fact that the AHL team is in the same direct area or within like a 45-minute drive of the big team. And that,
or if people are stupid.
Yeah, I mean, and that would have probably helped a decent amount for Andrei Mironov, because one of the things that one of the legitimate gripes that he probably had, that you could say that he had in his exit interview, was that the constant up and down and going back and forth between Denver and San Antonio for this past season was really hard on him, because he never had a place to settle. He was always living out of a hotel room. He didn't know whether or not it was hard to get connected with the teammates because he would do that for a little bit, and then he was gone somewhere again. It wasn't a good situation in that sense. So in this way, now he can not only can he come in to be part of Loveland, but if he does get called up, he can still keep his current living situation. So he can be in a house with some of his guys down in the AHL team.
Broomfield.
Or a house in Broomfield, which we might know a person who could help you out with that. Igor, I know you're listening.
I'm just saying it's halfway between the two.
Yeah, right, exactly. So it would be that sense would work. There'd be a certain comfort level. Other things the Avs could probably work to do to help a little bit more with this is I would hope they are being proactive in helping him learn English, because that's a big thing. Obviously, he's coming. I don't believe he speaks English very well at the moment.
Get him on the Varley program to learn English, which was Netflix and
or something, or get him hooked up with Zad. Get him hooked up with some of the other Russian guys already in your system.
I just love that interview from Varlamov. They're like, "Hey, your English is doing better. What did you do to study?" It was
I watched Netflix. You gotta love Varley.
Oh, I love Varlamov. Man. I just hope he stays healthy.
Same. But if the Avs can be proactive in something like that, that's another way that you can help gain a comfort level for the kid, because now not only can he go out with his teammates, but now say a moment comes where he needs to go to the store and buy something for himself, or he wants to go to Starbucks and get some coffee. He can do that with better confidence, and he doesn't have to go, "No, I can't do that because I can't talk to the person at the counter." He doesn't have to be so introverted that in a place that probably a lot of us would be if any of us went to a place where we don't speak the language and we had no way to socialize really because we couldn't understand anything that was going on, and then if we wanted to go out and get something, you might have a second thought about doing it because I can't go and speak German or Croatian or wherever I happen to be and get it figured out.
For what it's worth, I can speak German, so I'm good there.
Well, take Aaron with you then if you're in Germany.
Huzzah.
What the hell does that mean if you're in German? So again, it's a great thing for the Avalanche that they managed to sign him and get him over and get him in the system, because he's got a lot of talent. The times that he has gotten to play, really play, when he was playing in the MHL, he played a grand total of 50 games in the MHL and has 125 points. No, I'm sorry. Wait a minute. In his 50 games. My bad. He played a 50-game season and had 70. So he's played a grand total over a few years of 94 games in the MHL and has 125 points. That's excellent. Excellent. So if he can, he's got some talent, and it will be very interesting to see him as a member of the Eagles, and especially coming into training camp. Love to see what he can do.
And it's the perfect example, again, of a Hail Mary that if it connects, you have a franchise like Tampa Bay.
Mm-hmm.
That's really what this is.
And it'll be great if he can get if he gets up to play with the Avalanche, then that's a pick that's already paid itself off. But if then he can become a contributing member, oh man, then you give that scouting staff a bonus.
You give him a bonus and tell him, great, do it again.
Exactly.
And again, and again.
Which brings us to round 6 now, and the Avalanche select another Russian player. But from a very different spot, playing in America this time. Denis Smirnov, who plays in the NCAA at Penn State University, so not exactly a top-level program, but he's...
Penn State had 2 good years, so...
They're not bad by any stretch. But again, it's not another one of those ones that they haven't... They're not. It's not a program that's known for churning out NHL talent.
I don't know. You go to the tournament 2 years in a row.
But it's... Yeah, no, they're going places. They're going places, which is great. Smirnov's freshman year was his draft year, which was pretty outstanding. He had 47 points, including 19 goals for Penn State, was better than a point per game. Second season, his production went down a little bit, but he did have a little bit of injury issues. I couldn't tell if it looking at it, trying to research why he missed those games. It was either injury or illness based. I couldn't really tell exactly what was going on because they did. The coaching staff said it was an undisclosed injury that many people reporting on the teams thought might also be an illness. So, anywho, he only got 30 games this past season, but still had 27 points. So near a point per game, and again had 15 goals. So he's still
he's averaging a half a goal per game.
That's not bad at all. Pretty much the same pace from the year before, where he had nearly 20 goals in 30 some odd games. High 30s games.
At this point, you're just grabbing players. They're not the most polished. They've got some severe flaws. Like he cannot get a shot off quick enough to make it at the NHL level. That's what he really needs to work on. His skating really needs some help.
Mm-hmm.
He'll survive at the NCAA.
Yes.
But AHL, he would be a little overmatched, and NHL is way off at this point.
Definitely very off at this point. But again, and to his credit though, he has excellent hands. And to add on even more, he's a little undersized as well. He's like 5'10", and not a heavy fella.
Yeah, most people list him at 5'8".
Oh, I think I saw a bit. Oh yeah, 5'8". What side? I was looking at one side that listed him at 5'10".
But hey, if Alex DeBrincat can be okay,
oh sure,
then everyone else is on the board.
Absolutely. There's nothing saying that little guys can't make it, but you got to be,
especially in today's game where it's all based upon skating.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter as much about size, which is why Patrick Waugh did not last here.
Exactly.
If you can skate, you can stick.
Exactly. So he's done some good things. He's got some growing to do in his game. If he continues to produce, the Avalanche could eventually end up getting him a contract. He's probably a guy that you will most likely see play out his 4 full seasons at Penn State, and then see what happens. But again, he's another guy that they've managed to find that has some talent, that knows how to score, that can put up some points.
And they're making this is another one. They went. They went to a guy that was going to college, Cale Makar, but still a different league. OHL, WHL, Czech Republic, and then the KHL, MHL. Between the two, then again back to the NCAA. Diversified, not all ones. There's only of the draft picks, we took 3 defensemen. We'll get to the 7th round defenseman here in a bit. They took 3 forwards, a center, a right wing, and a left wing, and a goaltender. So essentially, you just drafted a lineup.
Yeah. You just drafted a line of 5 players that you can throw out there.
Yeah.
And a goalie.
And that's exactly the idea of drafting smart. Mm-hmm. Don't just draft the same player, because if you hit on all 3 of them, well, then you have to figure out what to do with all three of them.
Right.
Whereas if you draft sort of the same player over 3 years and hit on that same player, everyone's in a different level of development, and as they come along, you have more options for flexibility.
Yeah. Agreed. And then coming into the 7th round in this draft year at 187 overall, the Avalanche selected Nick Lieberman they selected him out of his high school in Eden Prairie High School, same high school as Casey Middlestat. Lieberman is a Notre Dame commit that this past season played in the BC Hockey League with Tyson Jost's old team, the Penticton Vs. Had a really solid first year in the BCHL. 37 points in 43 games, 10 goals, 27 assists. He had a little bit of injury stuff happen to him at this point during this season as well, but again, he played very, very well. Had some playoff action as well. Played 3 games, had 4 assists. One of the best parts of his game is this kid can skate.
Uh-huh.
Oh, he's a good skater.
Yeah, he might rival Makar for skating, just on pure speed.
Some of his
he isn't as polished as like shifting and using his edges,
right?
Especially on the defensive side, but he can skate.
Sees the ice really, really well. He has some good. He's got some moves too. Some of just checking out some of the highlights from his year this past year. He's very creative, offensively. Great, like I said, has good vision, can pass, and can bury the puck. He's not the biggest guy, but again, his size isn't awful. He's 5'11", 180-ish, so he can fill out his frame a little bit and maybe be a stockier guy. But he's never going to be like that dominating physical presence. But again, he's a guy that really, really, really skates well. What's going to be interesting with him again this next year, and we kind of mentioned it last podcast when we were talking about Nate Klerman, is that again he's a commit to Notre Dame, but Notre Dame has a lot of returning defensemen, and it's going to be a situation where he might have trouble getting some ice this year if he ends up going.
Yeah, he might just stay back another year.
Yeah, it might not be a bad idea for him to stay in the BCHL and again get more ice time.
And he might have been drafted in the CHL draft at some point, so that might be an option.
It's a possibility as well. Find out which team. I wonder which team holds his rights, if any. So, but yeah, he's another guy that has. There's another really strong 7th round selection, which you can look at and go, there's a potential pro upside to this kid. That again, if he is not just a man, I hope he manages to figure out how to play hockey. He already clearly knows how to play hockey, and you're looking for. You can see that if he continues to develop his game and continue to make strides, he can do something for your system, if not eventually for your NHL team as a depth player.
And again, it's diversified.
Yep.
Lieberman was the only player that they doubled up on. Makar and Lieberman are kind of the same guy.
Yeah.
Size, skating, whatever.
The difference being that Lieberman's a left D, which is
right.
So that's helpful in that
type of player.
Yes.
They're very, 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 very similar.
Yes, I will absolutely give you that.
It's a little early, but I give this draft an A just for Henry Makar Timmins, and then just getting Shivrev over. That's.
I agree. I think of the 3 drafts that we covered, I think this one could be the best, at least on paper, at the moment of the draft itself. I mean, Makar, Timmins, Henry, Shvirev, Lieberman. Those are all really, really, really intriguing picks. And you never know what's going to happen with goalies. So Kavacha, who knows, could come out of nowhere and suddenly show up to a training camp and be like, hey, guys, I'm a really freaking good goalie. And everyone will be like, I had no idea because you were in the Czech Republic.
Yeah, I don't know. I did not see you before.
It was hard to find you. You were like Waldo. and you just never know. You just never know. And again, Smirnov, who knows what happens with him? But there's a lot of really strong upside with this draft, offensively, defensively, all over the place. All over the place. They got a lot of. It looks like they got really smart players in this draft.
The last three drafts, I've seen at least 3 players that, at least in the time here, we've seen at least 3 players get an NHL contract or an entry-level contract. And it's a little early for 2017, but I see at least 3 players who have NHL ability, maybe 4, depending on Shivrev.
Yep.
That's a whole lot.
There's certainly a lot of very intriguing possibilities. If you were to pick one, who's your favorite pick in this one?
For value, Timmins. Actually, my favorite pick overall is Timmins.
Yeah, I can't.
He's a first round pick.
I don't disagree at all. I think if I were looking at it, I'm looking at it and kind of going, it's hard to argue with that. I'm going to say Henry.
Henry, yeah, I need to see him be more consistent. Like, I need to see another complete year through him. I like the late round value that they found in Shivrev and Smirnov.
Mm-hmm.
Kavacha is the wild card because you don't see.
You just don't know.
You don't see the Czech league stuff.
And even when you do see like goalie prospects, goalies are just such a different animal. It's just so impossible to predict who's going to show up and turn out and who's not.
Yep.
So right on. That takes care of the 2017 draft. So we're going to go ahead and call this portion of it a podcast, but don't fret. We're going to have a second part that's going to show up very quickly after this podcast, discussing the upcoming draft for the Colorado Avalanche, things to look for, as well as we may touch on some of the other dramatic things happening around the NHL. Obviously, there was that big trade that just happened as we were podcasting, so we may look at that a little bit more. And yeah, we'll keep. I think we've got a few questions coming in from the Twitter as we were podcasting here. So we'll take a quick break for us. Thanks for listening to the Burgundy Brigade podcast. We'll talk to you again very, very soon.